So I think this is a really important video in terms of twin flame journey, and it's basically different types of twin flame relationships, and also the whole phenomena of twin flames needing to be romantic versus being like, because right, I basically bought into this whole because surrounding twin flames, like there is definitely a phenomena that is a type of relationship that is a twin flame, and it's quite specific. And it was really Jeff and Shalia that like pointed out everything that encompassed it, but they didn't create the idea. Like, it's been around in Hinduism for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. But I think it's really important to recognize, like, I don't want to spread like myths, and that's exactly what I don't want to do on this channel. But I suppose more of a discussion type thing, because I think it can be really easy to like focus on for a specific type of relationship that you want to achieve with your twin flame. Like, for example, I've got three twins and two twin souls, okay? And one of my twin souls I literally had about two conversations with, but I knew they were my twin soul. And with my twins, one of my twins had expressed romantic feelings for me, but I didn't reciprocate them. And I don't know to this day whether they were like being sarcastic or not, like being genuine about it. But I think I don't know, because it was one of those things where it's like I don't really know to this day like what their true like actual feelings of it were. But I know that the nature of twin flames is to bring up what, like, it's to test your conditioning. And even if it's to be like, I'm not saying, because I've already done a couple of videos on karmic relationships, I'm not going to be like, oh, a twin flame relationship is like a karmic relationship, so all it is you finding contrast between what you want and like, sorry, going through a situation, realizing that's not for you and moving on. That's a karmic relationship, and that's not what twin flame is. A twin flame is an eternal situation. Like, it is like, by all standards of twin flames, it's an eternal situation. But for various reasons, and this is why I don't like to water down the whole concept. I'm quite a logical, if you get to this like plan to fail, fail to plan to fail kind of person, and I think if you haven't got a structured plan to do something, you're gonna fail. But there's actually room, I feel like, for grey area within twin flames, to be honest with you, especially for periods of time during separation, and for example when you're twins with another person and stuff. It's like, I don't know how genuine and real these feelings that one of my twins had for me, who I see as a friend. Um, but I think it's a very like, because I've seen people that have twins, and I totally believe that they're twins, like twin flames, and they haven't seen their twin for 20 years. They're or they're like confused why their twin like doesn't contact them, or they've asked them not to bother contacting them ever again, and all these things. um and it may well be that they may never contact them again. And it's just like one of those things that, like, I think, as I've mentioned in other videos, like, to be in a physical reunion where there's actually a romantic relationship or any sort of physical relationship or reunion is quite low down in the list of what twin flame actually is. So it can mean that you have other things that you have to achieve that may not be achieved if you were in physical reunion, in whatever capacity that is. And that's also part of the journey, I feel like, to be like, this isn't about my twin, it's about me, it's about my life path. And I think also, to be honest with you, I haven't really heard many people speak about this, but to see the triggers that the twin flame brings up within you as actually a gift rather than an annoyance. Because I've definitely found that I have, and to this day have, extreme resentment towards my twin just for bringing up so many triggers within me and acting out, as I would see it. But then I'm like, well, I had quite a structured conditioning for what I thought appropriate social behaviour would be. So maybe that's why they're bringing up all this stuff within me. And I'm like, well, why can't you just act how you're supposed to act as per what I would see as, like, you know? But they don't do that. They act mental, and they test all my standards. And I'm like, well, that's probably why, because it's trying to deconstruct conditioning. And I don't think twins consciously do that, but that's the purpose of why they're there and stuff like that. And it's like, you know, to try and box them into a specific category of relationship in the physical, because I think that's what our brains tend to do. And I see a lot of people on YouTube, right, sat there while their twin is in another relationship, married with kids, ask them not to contact them, you know, for decades, and they're like, oh, and they're like still doing their twin flame work, which is fine, because at the end of the day, to do spiritual work and to do work on yourself is always going to be a benefit, and the chances are I'll still be doing spiritual work to one degree or another. But in terms of actually waiting for them and being in like a space of I have to wait and be open for them, you know, I think I've heard people say to hold space for your twin is to hold space for yourself, and also to hold space for your twin is more of a likelihood, creates more of a likelihood that you'll be able to get into union, which is what your soul wants and what their soul wants. But it's also, I think there is, I don't like to use the word grey area, but to be honest with you, it can be helpful to incorporate a grey area just to not drive yourself nuts with the repetition of it all. Because when you're in separation with your twin, right, and you have a particular, and another thing is to have a particular idea of what you want that relationship to look like. And I know this is generally the feminine, okay, that creates this picture, and generally it's the masculine that runs off and is, you know, trying to get, because I'm a masculine in my twin flame set. There's two masculines and two feminines, but I think usually the masculine is the one that runs off, and the feminine is the one that tends to try and be like, this is what the relationship's going to be like, and try and control the relationship in one degree or another. And, you know, it's tricky because, you know, as much as I'm like, oh, well, I'm the masculine, so maybe I'm not doing that, we all have aspects of masculine and feminine within us. And the thing is, if whatever capacity you're feminine within you or you're masculine within you, but you can be projecting as well. You can have aspects of your feminine that are broken and wounded and be like, well, I'm not feminine, so that's not coming from me. You know, to try and control your twin will make them run, and they won't want to get into union with you. So there's also that. But I do genuinely think as well, though, it's each individual's person's path, and I always think the best, and I mean, it's going to work out in divine timing anyway, but I think that the best way to union, the most logical way, and usually if you put in work, it's going to pay off. If you just sit around thinking, when are they going to knock at my doorstep when you've got all this spiritual work to do and all these blocks to overcome, then that's not great. But from a sense of like, you've been doing the work for a while, and if they're just not contacting you and you've tried to contact them, because I don't believe in like stalking them and obviously things like that, and what would be the point in that anyway? You know, relationships are willful. But if you're, and also it's also a sense of like, because I think what I've learned as well is that judgment in terms of what you expect of them, judgment of their personality and your personality, right, being mismatched, or, okay, that's the wrong word, being incompatible, right, in some way, is, it's something to consider. But also, I always think people grow and develop to a point that you may not be at the right stage for union yet. Because I've seen twins on the internet that it's taken them 18 years plus to get into full harmonious union, and part of that was actually just physical development, because at certain stages of life they wouldn't have been as matured or able to connect in the way that they would have done when they were older, or when they actually got into union. So that's another part of it, because I think people can be dying to get into union with their twin, but it's just like not the right timing yet. And I, you know, it's up to anyone. Like, I don't believe, for me, it's the right thing to sleep around necessarily unless I want to, or to fill a void, shall I say, with other people, in terms of like a romantic relationship. So I'm not saying, and this was another thing I want to touch on as well, you don't, I think, as I say, I don't really go too much into like the structures of certain relationships, because that's a tricky thing as well. And I don't know, and the ones because I've seen this is the actual nature of twins, so I don't think it's worth categorizing being like, oh, they're this way, they'll never change, they are just this way, and there's nothing that I can do about it, and it just point blank does not match me in any way. And that can be the case, and that can be the consistent case. It can stay that way, and people don't change necessarily in some ways, but people also, though, with age will grow and develop into a person that will be able to to exchange with them in different ways as they change and grow. Because I'm not being funny, if my twin, which I'm in union with now, one of them, my friendship twin, if he and I had met in school, which we didn't, we met after school, but if we would have met in school, our personalities and who we were as people would not have been at the place to be in union or to meet, because we just weren't old enough, we weren't developed enough, and we didn't have enough capacity to connect with each other for various reasons. We weren't physically and emotionally and everything spiritually developed enough to be able to connect to that point. We wouldn't have done, and that's why the universe is like where it is at the moment, because the universe will bring you what you need at the time you need it. So whether you're to get into romantic union with your twin, because the thing is, I do believe to one extent or another, if you have romantic feelings for your twin and that's been reciprocated, right, or you feel it is reciprocated to one degree or another, it's almost like never say never kind of thing to one extent. But it's also like, I don't believe that abuse should be present in a twin flame relationship, and I don't believe that you should feel uncomfortable or fearful in a twin flame relationship, and I don't believe that it should be forced, and I don't believe that it should be not in the timing of the divine or each other. But to have this sort of void where your twin was, because often, and as well during the honeymoon phase, because I think with my twin, for example, this might be kind of a long video, we're only on 12 minutes. I think for my twin, for example, they stayed in contact with me and was sort of giving me what I needed, to be honest with you. And that was literally just to be there, okay? They were doing other stuff, they were actually in another present relationship, but they would still see me until I found out about this relationship. And they would sort of be there for what I needed, okay? And that was fine, but it sort of teaches you to get high on the twin flame relationship. I've heard Jeff and Shalia talk about this before, this idea of getting high on your twin flame and not doing the work enough to have any sort of balance to any degree, be that in whatever kind of capacity that is. And it doesn't really matter, because I do feel like you'll be contented to whatever degree that your twin is involved in your life. I believe that they are going to serve the purpose they are supposed to. So if their purpose is not to serve a romantic relationship in your life, then that will come in another person if that's what you desire. If that flame, twin flame is if you want them to be a friend, but one of your twins isn't your friend for whatever reason, they'll serve that purpose in another way. You'll find a friend to be there that's not your twin. They'll serve the purpose they're supposed to. If they're literally just supposed to be in your life to be like, I've heard like a teacher, like someone to guide, I don't know, if they're just there in that capacity, then that's what they'll be there for, and you'll find a romantic partner in someone else. That's not the issue. I don't think the issue should be that, and this is something because it's one thing, and I think it's also about, it's tricky to predict the outcome of a situation like a twin when your relationship has grown and changed. But also, I think you have to be, it's tricky because that's the paradox of a twin flame relationship, because on the one hand you're thinking, this person, I don't really want to go into like an emotional level of it, but what I'm saying is, we have to do the spiritual work, but it's about, I've heard someone say this as well, it's about accepting. I think part of the actual journey to be better is to accept that your twin won't be in the box that you want them to be, and that's what I'm trying to get over at the moment. I'm coming to terms with, but it's like even the box that you want them to be in, like they're not in the box that you want them to be, but also they might not ever be in that box and in that form, shall I say, that you want. And if you are going to be in harmonious union with them, and I know this from being in union with one of my twins, is you have to let them be 100% themselves. So in whatever capacity that is, and your higher self will actually, you'll be able to know why your twin is in a certain form. Your higher self will tell you. And, you know, that's okay, because you have to accept it for what it is. But it's a real mind fuck, like, when it's like, you've got the whole telepathy and the longing and the yearning for the twin flame connection, and they won't contact you, and in your heart of hearts you kind of know it's not the best thing for them to contact you, because you know there'll be chaos, because you've seen it and experienced it before. I have heard that people that just don't see their twins, and I've heard stuff on the internet, some people say this is a myth, that some twins are not supposed to come into union in this lifetime because it's just too toxic. But that would be the reason, because it's just too toxic. And I'm like, if you do the work and you learn the lessons you're supposed to learn, it shouldn't be toxic. But it's the capacity of that relationship, and also the nature, that's the word I'm trying to find, the nature of that relationship. And it all kind of is the same thing though, because sometimes it's like the control you want in your own life and in your own situation that your twin will run from, because they don't want to be controlled. And often they can see that you're being controlling, and this is what I've seen someone talk about in the past, Dove and Nicole, Twin Flame Revolution, and it's they talk about, like, they see the truth more than your lies. They see through your lies more than they see the truth more than your lies, basically, and it makes them feel crazy. And that's why I feel like I sometimes feel a bit crazy when it comes to my twin flame, because I feel like, and I think vice versa, because you'll lie for the benefit of yourself and even your twin flame. Like, you have to be completely honest, I feel like, with God and with yourself, and that's all you can do. And you need to be honest about your twin, not necessarily to them, but about them, within your own mind. Because if you're going to delude yourself into thinking that a reunion's not going to be chaotic and dangerous at this time, then you'll go for a chaotic, potentially abusive situation that you don't want, that is not going to be healthy for them, that's not going to be healthy for you, especially if they're actively in another, like, relationship, or they've got their own lives going on, you know, and you've got your own life going on. An abusive relationship is just going to cause havoc to that. No one wants that, especially when you've got other stuff on. If you're going to delude yourself into thinking that it's the right time for union when it's not, then you're only putting yourself in a really bad place, and them and everyone else that has to be around that, you know, that's no good, especially when people have got kids and they've got other lives to serve and jobs and this and that, and that's just no good. And also, you start to feel crazy if you're like projecting on your twin, right, all this stuff that you want, and your twin, as I say, they want to be in union with you to whatever degree that is, whether it's a friendship, whether it's just a companionship level to one degree or another, or a companionship that is not going to be very present in your life at all, you know, whatever that is, you've still got to be at peace with that. And you're going to make yourself feel crazy if your brain, because I'm starting to get to that point now where it's like, I can't, that you get into cognitive dissonance about, you know, I'm just so desperate, you know, for my twin to contact me, because I know how much it's going to relieve, like, my separation symptoms and my feelings of emotion, like negative emotion, but they're not contacting me. And, you know, and it's like, that's fine, but at the end of the day, you know, it's, you know, they're always doing you a service. They're doing themselves a service, but they're also, or they might just be going through something themselves, but also, to one degree or another, if you're that desperate, you shouldn't be desperate for them. It's like, just like a twin flame, it's even though you do get different feelings, it's just the same as another relationship. If you're in a soulmate relationship, if you're desperate for your soulmate, they're not going to like that, are they? Like, they don't, you know, you don't want to be with a desperate person who's like, oh my god, I can't, you know, even though the nature of twin flames is kind of stronger, not necessarily stronger, but it's different, and the nature of it is that you do feel kind of desperate to for your twin. But at the end of the day, it's still kind of the same as a soulmate to one degree or another. It's not the same, but what I mean is from the level of desperation, like you shouldn't be like the reason that you're desperate for your twin is so that you can get that mirror in order to heal yourself, right? But you don't necessarily need your twin to be that mirror, because you can use the mirror exercise to heal yourself before your twin's there. Because if you go into an attempted reunion with your twin in whatever nature that is, and you're unhealed and you've not done all of the work that you need to do in order to not want to go at each other because you're both so triggered by each other because of your unhealed wounds, you know, you're not, it's not going to be functional, it's not going to be sustainable, even if there's the nicest masks ever, because the chances are, you know, that your twin is your soul and that they will try their hardest to keep the mask on and to be nice as they can, as nice as they can to you, because they are your soul and you want to be in union by nature. Doesn't necessarily mean a romantic